Hi, I'm James Hanusa coming at you live from Hub Culture at the Copenhagen Climate Change Conference, COP15. I'm here with Professor Thomas Rosswall. Can you tell me a little bit about your organization?
Yes, I come here representing the Consultative Group of International Agricultural Research, which is a major network of agricultural research institutes sponsored by the World Bank and other bilateral donors. And I'm chairing their program on climate change.
So agriculture is really being addressed in the climate change discussions and negotiations for the first time at scale here at Copenhagen. Can you tell me what you've seen develop in that discussion around agriculture and climate change?
Well, we worked very hard on getting agriculture onto the agenda because we know that agriculture, including forestry, is responsible for about 1/3 of the global warming potential. So you have to address mitigation aspects of forestry, but also including agriculture. But we also know that the agricultural sector is probably the one that is going to be hardest hit, especially for the smallholder, poor farmers in the Sahel zone of Africa, or with the changes in precipitation patterns, with more heat waves, with more variability in the climate. They're going to be very hard hit. So that's why we must address both agriculture and forestry in the context of both mitigation and adaptation.
Why hasn't it been on the table before as a negotiation point? Is it because of the subsidies that go into agriculture? Is it because of national interest? Can you speak to that?
I think we've just been too slow to learn from the forestry experience. But forestry only started a couple of years ago as well at COP15. So that has developed very rapidly to get forestry onto the agenda. But now the discussions on the forestry protocol, the so-called RED, they're talking about RED++ to add agriculture and other land uses, because otherwise the focus of the negotiations would be too limited.
Okay. Urban agriculture, is that talked about at all, or is it mostly in the developing world and finding solutions there?
Well, I think we had an Agriculture and Rural Development Day on Saturday here. It was very successful because you did not see a polarization between the poor farmers in the south and the large-scale farmers in the north, or organic agriculture versus GMOs. And of course, urban agriculture or peri-urban agriculture was also addressed. But we really came out of that meeting with a strong voice that the whole agricultural community is united to get the discussion on agriculture onto the agenda of Copenhagen. How
does technology collaboration and finance mechanisms apply to agriculture? There's a lot of discussion around countries, I should say, supplying large finance pools to protect forests in Brazil, for example. Does that apply at all in the agricultural context?
Yes, it applies in the agricultural context. And I think the way to give finances to the poor farmers, the challenge is to ensure that it doesn't end up in the coffers of the finance department of the country, that it really goes down to the grassroots level, because it is the farmers that need to have support. But the institutional mechanisms are not there. They are not there for forestry, and they are certainly not there for agriculture. So in order to handle that, we need totally new mechanisms for that, and institutions need to change, and new may have to be developed. At South Asia, for example, when the glaciers disappear in the Himalayas, they're going to have less water. So it's a very crucial issue in all of this. So it's a question of sustainable use of land and water resources under a changing climate. And the problem is that climate must be understood in a global context. But what we talk about is rural development in a village context. And the question is, how do you link the global to the local? The same thing if you look at the time scale. The National Hydrometeorological Services, they can give weekly weather forecasts. And the climate modelers, they give changes over 100 years perhaps. And what we need is seasonal forecasts to the farmers so they can plan in advance.
Great. Any other points you'd like to share with our audience?
No, I'm just very pleased that we've been able to start a serious discussion on agriculture for the reasons I say. And the program that I'm now chairing has brought the global science community together, because The farmers need to develop new methodologies, new land use management systems based on best available scientific knowledge. But we also need to learn from traditional knowledge of the farmers. So again, it's an exchange of information. It's not that the truth comes from the scientist. Some truth will come from the scientist, but other experiences, very important information will come from the farmers. And that's why we need this dialogue. And we're also, for the first time ever, bringing together the scientists working on rural development issues with the climate change scientists that work on the global level. It's not going to be easy, but we are going to succeed.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Thomas Rosswall, and thank you for tuning in to Hub Culture.
Thank you.